purpose of today's special presentation is to inspire you and to change your life, and to hopefully teach you how to start rewriting or start writing your own destiny. Now, today, you are going to have 3 amazing speakers with amazing paths that they're going to share with you. Let me highlight a few things. Combined, they speak 5 different languages. They hold 9 college degrees. They have a guitarist, state chess champion, a conductor, a karate champion, and a violinist. Best-selling authors, and a strong desire to help you improve. Now, I don't know about you, but where else can you go at lunchtime to be able to be in a room with that kind of talent? I know I'm a little starstruck, and I'm proud to work with them closer this year as one of their officers. Our first speaker is going to share a story with you about a major career setback. It killed his ego a little bit, but he did not lose his drive. He licked his wounds, he picked himself up, he grabbed a pen, and he started writing his new story. In finding this, he has realized that he has been able to find success and reduce his stress. Please help me welcome our very special newly elected president, competent communicator, competent leader, Mr. Eric Williamson.
You can't win. You've seen him, you know how strong he is. Who can tell me the movie where that line came from? Not Going with the Wind. Someone say Going with the Wind?
Rocky.
That's right. Rocky IV, one of the best movies of all time. And as a matter of fact, if you were with me sitting on that old brown couch in my parents' 3-bedroom apartment, you would have seen how shocked I was to hear Adrian shout those words to Rocky. I mean, Rocky's wife doubted him. Now look, I get it. Some of you are probably thinking, look, spouses, they doubt each other all the time, right? Hey, my wife doubted I was going to take the trash out last night. And she was right. But I'm not talking about that kind of doubt. I'm talking about doubting your ability to succeed. Doubting your ability to change your story. Have you ever been doubted? Have you ever doubted yourself? That's exactly what happened to me. Toastmasters, welcome guests, and storytellers. I invite you to take a step back to me almost 15 years ago when I suffered a major setback. There was something that I wanted my entire life. I planned for it, and I didn't get it. And it crushed me. And I didn't think I would ever recover. But I learned something valuable. And I didn't learn it from Rocky. I learned it from the actor who played Rocky. Not guilty. As the judge slammed the gavel, I smiled from ear to ear. I was relieved. In fact, the only other person in that courtroom happier than me was the defendant. He was exonerated of all charges. That's right, I won another case. If only that were the truth. You see, the truth is, that was my dream my entire life up until I graduated from college. My story, it was already written. You could ask my mom growing up back in the day who I wanted to be, and she would say proudly, my baby, he's gonna be a lawyer, a good lawyer. You know, this one time, I was about 7 years old, I won a chess tournament, and I made the local paper. And the reporter asked me who I wanted to be, and I said, I want to be a lawyer. And when the reporter asked why, I said, well, I want to be able to ask the hard questions like, isn't it true that you're guilty? But see, There was just one thing wrong. One thing was standing in my way. One tiny little obstruction I just couldn't get past. Me. That's right. You see, I didn't need anybody getting in the way of my dreams. I did that myself. Studying, please. While other students worried about getting good test scores to get into law school, I didn't need that. I had a secret weapon. I had something that nobody else had. Something that set me apart from everyone else. This killer smile. No, seriously, this killer smile. It's how I got into undergrad. And when that day arose, when I received my first letter, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to receive it. I practically pushed the mailman out of the way, and I just grabbed the letter, and I just couldn't wait to read it. And I was so excited, I just started reading and said, "Dear Mr. Williamson, thank you for your interest in our school. After completing a careful review of your application and supporting credentials, our admissions committee has concluded that we are unable to offer you acceptance to the program." Not one, not two, but 20 rejection letters? Clearly, these weren't the same people who saw my killer smile. But you know what's worse than letting myself down? Letting down my mom. I just wanted her to be proud. I didn't want to disappoint her. What am I going to do now? I needed to pick me up. I looked for anything and everything, and I did the only natural thing what anybody in their right mind would do at that moment. The only thing that made sense. I watched Rocky online. And as I was browsing the internet, I came across a story by the actor who played Rocky, Sylvester Stallone. And I began reading, and it changed my whole outlook on life. You see, Stallone, he wrote the movie Rocky. And he tried over and over and over again to get producers to do the movie. And he was unsuccessful. Things got so bad that he had to do the unthinkable. He had to sell his best friend, his dog, for $50. He wasn't rejected once, not twice, but almost 50 times. And then finally, one day, someone looked at the movie, they looked at the writing, and they said, "You know what? This has potential. Stallone, I want to do this movie." And he offered Stallone $100,000. But Stallone, he had one condition, and one condition only. And that was he had to play the starring role. The producer said, no, you're a writer, you're not an actor. Stallone, he refused the offer. The producer raised the offer to $400,000. Stallone was adamant. He said, "No, I have to play this part." So then finally, the producer just got annoyed, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to offer $25,000. I'm using $25,000. But he said that Stallone could star in the movie. And Stallone, he accepted. The first thing he did after he made the deal, he bought back his dog. Now the rest is history. You know about the accolades, the Academy Award winning, all that stuff. But see, Stallone, he showed me that he was persistent. He was strong. He was courageous. But that's not what I admired most about him. I admired his passion. He found something worth pursuing. If only I had that passion. Because being a lawyer, it wasn't it. I wanted it for the wrong reasons. I didn't want it badly enough. If I did, I wouldn't have relied on this killer smile. I would have taken the test seriously. But see, those rejection letters, they humbled me. And they fueled me to find my passion. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to stand before you and say that I'm part of an administration that's providing food and benefits to millions of Americans, providing food on their table and a roof over their head. I'm providing tools to employees to keep you poised for success by training, coaching, and mentoring. The end result? Stronger teams, better working relationships, improved morale. You see, your story can be anything, but will you be your own author? Is there something in your life that you want to change? Take control now. Be the author of your own destiny. Right now, write down 2 to 3 things in your life that you want to change. If you have a BlackBerry, you have a smartphone, write it down. Put it on your phone right now. Jot 2 to 3 things down in your life that's worth changing. And while you're jotting that down, I'm going to introduce the next speaker. You just heard my story about how I changed my story. But what if you had to change your story for survival? What if you had to change your story to save your daughter's life? Up next, you're going to hear a story about someone who was at rock bottom of her life. She faced unbelievable circumstances, and it should have written her off. But she regained control over her pen, and she's writing chapters about her life she would have never dreamed about only a few years ago. She is strong, she's brave, she's courageous. And she can break your arm in 4 different places. She has a truly remarkable story, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Please help me welcome the amazing Robin Strellick.
Thank you, Eric, for your kind words. I promise I won't break your arm today. I'd like to share a story with you today about a 33-year-old woman. It was 6 a.m. on Sunday, May 29th, 2011, and she heard a knock at her door. Sorry to wake you, ma'am, but we're going to have to take your husband downtown. As she wiped the sleepiness from her face and shielded the blinding light, she yells back to the sheriff, "Take him and don't bring him back." So the sheriff left her room, and she quickly went to her daughter's room to see if her 6-year-old daughter was still asleep. She opens the door and she looks in and she sees her daughter, and her daughter is peacefully sleeping in her bed. So she closes the door ever so quietly and holds the doorknob firmly as she sinks to the floor in tears because she didn't want to have her daughter see her father being carted off to jail. This story paints a really vivid image. It makes us make certain assumptions. What kinds of things can we assume about this woman? Maybe she's living in poverty. Maybe she's unemployed. Maybe she's uneducated. But there's a father and a husband in this story that's irresponsible. There's a wife in the story that's fed up. And there's a mom in the story that's just trying to protect the innocence of her child. But what is the significance of this story, and why would I even share it with you today? Because that story that I shared with you was my story 4 years ago. That day changed my life forever. It was the day I stopped letting somebody else control my pen to my story. It was the day I stopped blaming other people for my life outcomes. I was allowing the prescription narcotic addiction of my husband to control my pen of life. His addiction became the author of my story. It wrote chapters on obesity, debt, financial ruin, uncertainty. Insert any devastating word there, and that would describe what addiction was writing for me. So let's go back to my 33-year-old self, and I want to share with you something I wrote in my journal a week after he was arrested. I never wrote in a journal before, and this was my first entry. Do you mind if I share it with you today? Today, I begin the process of closing a huge chapter in my life. It's a difficult chapter, but a necessary chapter to close. Tomorrow, I will take back control of my life. I'm leaving my husband. What do I do? It's a clear tipping point, an opportunity to choose a new direction. If I don't do something now to transform my life, I may never be motivated to move in a positive direction. Where do you want to go, Robin? Where do you want to be when this is all over? And what can you start today? What can you start today to begin your new chapter? I don't know all the answers yet, but here starts my journey to a new and amazing life. I was at rock bottom when I wrote this story, but somewhere deep down, I knew that I could change my story. I knew that with a single stroke of my pen, that I would have the ability to change my destiny forever. So why do I tell you this? Because anybody in this room has the ability to change their destiny too. Is there something in your life that you were thinking of changing? Maybe as difficult as mine, maybe not as difficult as mine. Maybe you're looking to lose weight, financial freedom, change in careers. It doesn't matter what it is, because anything that you put your mind to and anything that you want to change, you can change it because it's your story and nobody else's. So let me share a few new chapters to my life, and all of you are part of it. 4 years ago, when I took control of my pen, I was able to lose 90 pounds in 18 months and keep it off. I was able to not only increase my credit score by 5 points, 50 points, 100 points, I was able to increase my credit score by 333 points in 12 months and provide a life for my daughter that she never knew she could have. I earned a black belt in martial arts. That's why Eric said I could break your arm in 4 places. I earned a black belt in martial arts, and I've won national world titles in sparring, and I did break some sparring. That's why he said that. Board breaking, weapons, and forms. My daughter trains with me, and she has the confidence to take on the world. I've changed careers dramatically. I went from being a music educator, a well sought after clinician and classical music conductor, to being an IT manager here at SSA. I've become a life coach and helped people lose weight. I've had people lose hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds because of my inspiring story. This list and this chapter of my life, all these chapters they keep going on and on and on. I keep writing new chapters. And you can write your own chapter too. My name is Robin Strempek, and I changed my story. What is your story, and do you control the pen to your story? So, you were supposed to write 3 things down that Eric had you write down. So, if you could take that out, either if you wrote it in your BlackBerry on your paper, I want you to find the single most difficult thing to change in your life and just circle it. You don't have to take action right this minute, but just circle something that's a challenge in your life. And while you're doing that, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. If you enjoyed my story, I think you'll thoroughly enjoy our next speaker. He'll give us a different perspective by sharing how he changed his story multiple times throughout his life. It is with great honor and pleasure that I introduce the guest speaker today. He's a self-made millionaire, philanthropist, international evangelist working in third world countries, a #1 best-selling author. He owns not 1 but 4 companies and runs the Laura B. Walker Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a thunderous and warm welcome to Dr. Bob Dudley.
How y'all doing?
Good.
1st, 1983 was the first time I ever paused to take a breath and think about what it meant to change my story. I was standing in a field with several hundred other young men and women waiting to be commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. And as I stood there, I thought back about the path that brought me there. In particular, I started with 28 years before, on another April, where a 20-year-old woman, Laura Walker, high school dropout, became pregnant by her 29-year-old boyfriend. They did the right thing. They went down to the courthouse and got a marriage license and got married by the Justice of the Peace, and 9 months later I was born. Before I had a chance to even understand who I was or know who I was or know my parents, my mom and dad got a divorce and my mother took me and married a gentleman by the name of Eddie. I can remember like it was yesterday how I found out that Eddie wasn't my dad. My folks were arguing. I was probably 7, 8 years old. They were arguing and rather violently. And I got scared and I went up and wrapped my arms around my daddy's leg. And my mom looked at me and said, "I don't know why you went over to him. He's not your dad." I was crushed. I was crushed. But it got worse. The next year, my mom decided that it would be a good idea for me and my younger brother and sister to go to our grandparents' house for Christmas, Eddie's parents. So we went there Christmas Eve, and we're kids, we're talking about, oh, what's Santa going to get you? I think I'm going to get this, and on into the late hours of the night. And then the next morning, we ran down to the living room to see what Santa Claus had brought. And I sat there and watched Roger and Mary open present after present after present. And I learned that day that I wasn't part of the family. I spent the next several years till I was 18 years old, moving from family member to family member, my brothers and sisters and I, until eventually my mother had been married 3 times. I was the oldest of 7 children. When I was a senior in high school, I had gone at that time to 17 different schools. We had moved around that much. I turned 18 in January, and that month I was signing up for my 3rd school that year. They told me I'd have to take the whole year over again, even if I took my classes. I quit. I just gave up. I said, that's enough, and I left. And because I was 18 and because I was no longer in school, my parents did what every parent does. They took me down to the local welfare office to sign up for benefits. And then I knew I just had to go. I took off, wound up in the Army, spent 3 years in the Army. After the Army, I went to a Bible college, Midwestern Baptist College, for a year and a half, and then I quit that. And I just knew I was a loser, I was a quitter, I was nothing. I had no right to even think I could be anything. But then something snapped inside of me, and I says, no, I can be somebody, and I'm going to prove it. I went down to the local university, and I decided I'm going to get a college degree and prove to myself and prove to others that I can be somebody. So I went to the lady at the registration. I said, I want to sign up for college, and she says, what's your major? I said, I don't have a major. She said, well, you got to pick one. So she handed me a catalog, and I'm thumbing through it, and I'm thinking, I need something that's hard. I need something that's a challenge. I need something that's going to prove that if I can do this, I can do anything. Physics. That sounded hard. I had no idea what it was, but it sounded incredibly difficult. So I said, I want to get a degree in physics. Do you know that you have to be good at math to get a degree in physics? I didn't know that. They gave me a math placement test. You got to start off with calculus with your freshman physics class. I had to take Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Analytic Function, Trigonometry, 4 semesters, 2 years of math before I could even start my physics degree. Roadblock number 1. Roadblock number 2. Remember, I'd gone to Bible college for a year and a half. I sent my transcripts over, and it was not accredited. Every single class I had to take all over again. Roadblock number 2. At the time, I had a wife and 2 children. I had to support them. Yeah, one of them right there. I worked in a factory 40 hours a week, second shift. Roadblock number 3. But I determined that no one, no thing, no circumstance was going to stop me from accomplishing my goal. I was going to do it. Not only did I get my degree in physics, but I dominated. I finished the degree, the 4-year degree, I finished it in 3 years, and I graduated at the top of my class. Now, since then, that was like 30 years ago. I've changed my story twice since then, and I'm getting ready to change my story in a couple of months one more time. But in changing my story, I've earned 5 degrees, including 2 masters and a doctorate, in things as far apart as physics, aerospace engineering, astronautical engineering, and theology. I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I had one of the largest martial arts schools in Southern California, which turned into a very successful chain of martial arts schools around the country. I was a professor at the United States Naval Academy. Boy, if they knew where I came from, they would have been scared to leave me with their cadets. I took a 44-foot sailboat and sailed from Annapolis to Bermuda and back. I ran a very successful aerospace software engineering consulting firm. I've written 7 books. One of them, like Robin said, a #1 international bestseller. Me. I flunked English in high school. I am, this blows me away to say this doesn't even sound real when I say it, I'm a millionaire. I'm worth, this morning I checked, I'm worth $1.42 million. Wow. That just blows me away. I own, like Robin said, 4 investment companies. I'm getting ready to start another one with 2 of my best friends. I own a foundation that goes around the world and helps pastors grow their churches in third world countries. And the most significant accomplishment I've had in my life, the thing I'm most proud of, the thing that just makes me cry with joy every night, is the fact that I raised 4 highly motivated, highly successful women. And Robin Sternpeck is one of them. I got 3 more at home. And they're just taking on the world. In 1 Corinthians 14, the Apostle Paul says that the job of a New Testament prophet is to pull out the secret treasure from your heart. I think that's such a cool thing to be able to do. Pull out that secret treasure. Eric had you write 3 things down at the end of his talk just now. And then when Robin came up, she wanted you to circle one of them. What I would like you to do is think about making that your treasure, the one that you're going to go for first. The one that you're going to say, wow, physics, that looks hard. All right? But what I want to encourage you, before you put your head on the pillow tonight, to think about how you're going to take that very first step. How you're going to go and change your story, change your life, change your destiny. Because you can be anything you want to be. You were put on this earth for a special purpose. And I want you to go for that. Now, I'd also like to reintroduce Eric. He's a very hardworking man, a very dedicated man, a very righteous man, but most importantly to me, he's my friend. Eric Williamson.
Thanks, you know, sometimes in life, when things don't go our way, it's easy to give up. It's easy to allow life's obstacles to write us off. In my story, I was the obstacle. I couldn't get out of my own way. Bob and Robin, they had different obstacles. But see, sometimes what you have to do is you have to go forward. You have to keep moving on. How will you change your story? You've already identified what you want to change. But that's not nearly as hard or as challenging as the next step. The hardest step of all. That's making the change. How will you make it? When will you make it? You know what, right now, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter when. Just as long as you take control of your pen to change your story, change your life, and change your destiny. Toastmaster.